How do you guys deal with it? I, like many on the bubble sub presumably, did not buy a home in 2020-2022. In the aftermath, I think it is clear that this was a life-altering financial mistake. I am starting to see that our rebubble jerk was right all along. The reality is simple: home prices, in nominal terms, aren't going to go down substantially. They will go down when adjusted for inflation in real terms. But the outcome is still massively unfavorable to anyone that did not buy. The cost of owning has more than doubled. For the next few years, rates will most likely remain elevated, and the excess money supply will be absorbed as inflation. There's a lot of people, including me, that are desperately hoping home prices and interest rates go down closer to where they were in 2020. But that just isn't reality. The most likely scenario over the next 5 years is a combination of several things happening. Nominal home prices staying flat, 5-10 depending on location. Cumulative inflation of 25-30 over 5 years. Rates going down to 5-6 long term. Cumulative income growth of 10-15. Acceptance of the new normal of affordability, where housing costs make up a greater percentage of people's take-home paycheck, i.e. 40 instead of 30. All those factors get us back to a steady state new normal. However, it doesn't change the fact that not buying in 2020 and locking in a 2 to 3 30-year rate cost me millions of dollars and generational wealth. What could have been a comfortable $2,500 payment for a dream home will now be a stressful $6,000 payment for life. That hurts. My question for anyone in the same boat is, how are you guys dealing with this reality? I think about it almost every day and it makes me depressed. It feels like a chasm was created between haves, those who bought, and have-nots, those who didn't. How are you dealing with this? How are you finding the motivation to work hard in life, knowing that no matter what you do, the chasm can't be crossed? Would love to hear ideas on how to move on. Edit. Several have asked, why didn't you buy a house in 2020-2022? Because I hate gray LVP and spent my time mocking those who bought ugly gray homes. There's a lot of people, including me, that are desperately hoping home prices and interest rates go down closer to where they were in 2020. But that just isn't reality. This really should be displayed more prominently. The ridiculously low mortgage rates during the pandemic were 1. An anomaly, not the new norm some seem to think. 2. Triggered the surge in house prices. I think the new normal is there is no normal. In the last 20 years, we have seen a dozen different things happen. I think it's human instinct to think the current thing is going to go on forever. The only thing you can do is make more money and cut down on your expenses where you can. Understanding rates were an anomaly is step 1. Realizing I can accomplish my personal and professional goals while renting and my worth isn't in owning property is step 2. Being ready for when homes become affordable for my wife and so we can capitalize is step 3. Signed. Renter in VHCOL area. You are not going to like this, but it worked for me. Spend the next 10 years living frugal and save up all the cash you can. Then interest rates won't affect you much. Yeah, rates will never go below 5 again. And if they do, something bad has happened and you aren't getting a loan anyways. In addition, no one sane is going to sell their home for a loss with a low rate. So these unicorn cheap houses aren't gonna show up on the market. I bought a house in 2021 and there's an even bigger chasm between me and people who bought before me, and so on and so forth. Boomers have it way better than I do and I'll never be able to catch up to them. There's always a chasm. You will be fine. Live below your means and save your cash. I bought my first home at the worst time before the last bubble. I think '06. I overpaid and had a 630 year. I got roommates and made it work. I was down on paper for a solid 5 years. I renegotiated to a 15-year at 2.8 and 12 years later have it almost paid off, and it has appreciated 150K. You will be okay. What I do to deal with it is I don't fall for the fear-mongering. Then I open my MLS. I look at the 2,000 livable houses in my area under 200K and sell young people those ones. Hi there, I'm in my starter home. Didn't refi at crazy low rates. BCI plan to move and didn't want to pay closing costs. 2 years later. Still can't afford anything bigger than I have. My advice? Everyone is trying to make a buck off millennials. Live simply and try to pay off debt. When you buy a home, keep it for 10 years or more. Starter homes are dead. This is a little dramatic. You can still build wealth without owning a home. The most likely scenario over the next 5 years is a combination of several things happening. Nominal home prices staying flat. 5-10 depending on location. Cumulative inflation of 25-30 over 5 years. Rates going down to 5-6 long term. Cumulative income growth of 10-15. You need to get out of this habit of trying to predict the future. Time the market and buy when you find a house you like and that you can afford. You are at risk of repeating the very history you're trying to avoid by making assumptions about the future housing market. Let go of your idea of a dream home and buy something else and fix it up. You could always rent it out later when the market improves. I think it is clear that this was a life-altering financial mistake. Glad to see at least some of the RRE bubble cult is starting to admit they were wrong. I think it depends on where you. Observations of house prices in upstate is beginning to show a reduction in price. I deal with it by making my house more shades of gray. You did better if you bought stocks on margin. There are tons of ways to beat yourself up about not making money. Houses are just one of them. Sunk costs versus opportunity. A home with your perspective assumes that you'll live in it for 30 years and never move. However, that's very unlikely. So stop worrying about it and start trying to figure out how to grow your income. You aren't tied to a geographic region now and can move across country to pursue that increased income. Wealth is relative, and stop focusing on only real estate. Finally, someone in this sub gets it. Prices will not be going down anytime soon. Please stop pretending that is going to change. Imagine not buying a house because it's gray. If only they made a way to change colors. You can never time the market. Just buy, invest when you need to for your life decisions, and don't look back. The best time to buy a house has always been in the past. Lots of PPL in homes that they overpaid for in 2020-2022 at low interest and now are trapped. No job promotions if that involves moving. Neighbors change. Neighborhood tips downward. They can't move or will sell at a loss. Major recession comes and they will be underwater. People overpaying for homes at 7 interest rates are banking on refi down the road, but if home prices fall and they are underwater, that won't happen. Your primary home should always be thought of as a roof over your head and not a bomb-proof investment strategy. If you want to know what America of 2030 looks like, become very familiar with Australia. They're where we're headed. Serious question. Can I ask why you didn't buy in 2020-2022? Were you not ready yet? Being a liquid millionaire is much more fun. I'm dealing with this by knowing that my housing costs are about 1/3 of the costs incurred by people who bought in the last year. The stock market appreciates faster than the housing market, so I invest the difference there.